Oh, this is gonna be crazy. That was great. Alright, hello everyone and welcome to another episode of SpraynPray1000's Verdict. I am SpraynPray1000 and today we are going to be talking about the latest entry in a long-running line of stealth games. Today's game is Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell Blacklist, and pretty much, for those of you who don't know what that is, it's a very iconic game in the stealth genre, alongside other games like Hitman and Metal Gear. It focuses more on, maybe even more so than Hitman and Metal Gear, it focuses more on, evading enemies, and it's pretty much, it's a realistic sort of military style game, and it's nothing like kooky or weird like some of the other stealth games like Sly Cooper or anything like that. The protagonist is the usual Sam Fisher once again, and after the events of previous games, which unfortunately I did not have the pleasure of playing prior to playing this game like I originally hoped to, Sam Fisher is now in charge of a military unit called the 4th Echelon, based off of his previous unit and the more iconically known 3rd Echelon group of spies. And Sam Fisher is pretty much the best of the best, okay? He's, well, I don't know about your playstyle, but he's meant to be, a top secret spy. He can easily infiltrate, find his way around patrols, and he's really agile. And that I can definitely say about in this game. Now, prior to this game, I was not too big of a stealth genre fanboy, you know what I mean? I wasn't that great at stealth games, and even now I still don't think I'm that great. But let me tell you, going in thinking that I was bad at stealth games, I came out of this experience saying that, you know what, Splinter Cell Blacklist really is a pretty good game. And, I really did enjoy it, and I was able to play it somewhat stealthily. So, pretty much, what's the concept of Splinter Cell Blacklist? Splinter Cell Blacklist takes place after Splinter Cell Conviction. Sam Fisher is working with his friend Vic, and unfortunately a group of terrorists known as the Engineers begin several attacks on U.S. interests in U.S. soil, known as the Blacklist. And each attack is more aggressive and more dangerous and more deadly than the last. And Sam Fisher is tasked by the President of the United States, President Caldwell, to basically put an end to these attacks and stop, the Blacklist. And that's the major point of the game. Now, because the 3rd Echelon was shut down in the last game, or however many games ago, Sam Fisher is put in charge of a new 4th Echelon, consisting of some previous old friends, some new faces, and the majority of the game is spent, finding out, who's behind the Blacklist and what Sam Fisher can do to shut them down. Now, pretty much, the game plays from an over-the-shoulder, third-person perspective, like most third-person games. And what I will say is that it feels like you're right at home, with Sam Fisher after you mess around with him a lot. I felt kind of right at home with the control scheme, with what I could and could not do with Sam. Like, for example, you have a whole bunch of gadgets at your disposal. And I'm just going to talk from my perspective, which was the stealth perspective, because, that's the way the game is meant to be played. Although there are some sequences that are combat-oriented. You can play them stealthily, which would be very difficult. But, as I said, Splinter Cell is a stealth franchise. The emphasis on the game is stealth. Not being seen, trying to slip past enemy patrols, knocking them out non-lethally, and all that good stuff. So, for example, some of the gadgets you have at your disposal are, just not even talking about gadgets, just some of the things that Sam can do. He can, for example, vault over stuff really quickly. He can climb pipes. He can hang off of ledges. He can, you know, hang upside down from pipes, you know. He has all these unique abilities to him. He can knock people out while hanging from these pipes, aerial knockouts, from corner knockouts, from behind knockouts. You know, he has all these different things you can do. Pretty much anything that you can scale and any way that you can move, you can knock someone out while doing it. So, like, you can be running, you know, you can be right up to someone. If he's unaware of you, he can knock you out. That being said, sound is a major factor, okay? Like, you know, if you've ever tried this in real life, the faster you move, you know, the more noise you make. And, you know, you have upgrades to reduce that, but you got to remember, you know, the AI isn't exactly dumb, okay? You know, they're suspicious. You know, they know something's up. They know they're doing something they're not supposed to be doing. So, like, for example, if you're crouch walking as slowly as possible behind someone, yeah, you run the risk that that person might wheel around and see you, but also at the same time, it's almost impossible for him to hear you slowly creeping up behind him. Conversely, if you're sprinting full speed and, you know, the guy wheels around, you know, he's going to hear you from a mile away sprinting at full speed. You know, it doesn't matter if you're Sam Fisher. Any human is going to make enough noise that another human's going to be able to hear it. You know, and then you have other gadgets, such as you have the tri-rotor, which is, you know, kind of like the tri-rotor from Ghost Recon. You know, you have the, what is it? Well, it was a quad rotor in Ghost Recon. It's a tri-rotor in this game. You also have, and the tri-rotor can shoot darts. You have the iconic Splinter Cell trifocal goggles. You know, if you've ever seen Splinter Cell, that's something that you always see with it. You know, Sam Fisher's iconic green goggles. You know, the three lights that, you know, apparently no guard can ever see, you know, even when they're looking right at him and he's in complete darkness. I don't know why. There's also, you have a lot of weapons available to you also, but speaking of gadgets, you have, like, noisemakers, you have a bunch of different stuff, you have electronic shockers, you know, just non-lethal stuff. There's also, like, frag grenades, incendiary grenades, all that good stuff, but again, you know, playing it stealthily is probably the best bet, because then you can always go loud later, and in some cases you have to stay hidden or otherwise you lose the mission. So, gameplay-wise, I have to say, this game has a lot of stuff to it. There's a lot of ways you can go about taking out your enemies, you know, environmental takedowns. For example, you know, you can shoot your stun gun or whatever electric device you have into a puddle, and, you know, depending on, you know, whether or not it's a proximity thing or a stun gun, you can electrocute multiple people if they're standing on top of it, which is really cool, and knock them out non-lethally. Of course, you got to be careful that cameras don't see the bodies, that drones don't see the bodies, and while I'm talking about, you know, all these different things, there's a bunch of different types of enemies in this game that you got to be aware of. For example, there's the heavy, the guys wearing, like, pretty much, what do you call it, EOD suits, you know, heavy suits. They cannot be taken down from, you know, they cannot be stunned. You pretty much have to take them down hand to hand, you know, while they're unaware or from behind. You can't run up to them and, you know, take them out that way like most other people. And they're equipped with, like, heavy weapons, shotguns, you know, stuff like that. There's people who have shields. You know, obviously if they have shields, you gotta get them from behind or from above. Kind of similar to the heavies. There's people who also are wearing night vision goggles, and you gotta be careful of them. There's people who... there's dogs you gotta be aware of, because dogs can smell you and they're gonna root you out that way. You know, there's a couple of different enemy types you gotta be careful of, you know what I mean? And now pretty much the way the detection system works in this game is kind of similar to a Hitman Absolution, where as soon as someone begins to detect you, or they begin to sense that something's not right and they're looking at you, what they're gonna do is, there's, like, what do you want to call it, like an ellipse that appears on your screen in the direction that you're being detected in, and, like, you know, the whole goal of it is that you try and keep that ellipse from reaching critical. So in Hitman Absolution it was yellow and then it turned red. In Splinter Cell it's white and then it turns red as well. And then, you know, it makes a noise when people are alarmed. Now it doesn't turn immediately red when it fully fills up, which is good, because that means that you can take someone out. Like, they know you're there, but you can, like, run up to them and quickly take them out, or you can stun them, or you can do something to stop them from, you know, raising the alarm, which is also very good. You know, there's also a lot of things you can do with, like, light switches, you know, going under floor panels, and really, there's just a lot of things you can do to turn the tides against your opponents, you know what I mean? There's a lot of ways you can move around the level, And you basically get rewarded depending on how you play in either 3 categories. Ghost, Panther, and Assault. Ghost for leaving enemies undisturbed or taking them out when they're unaware. Panther for evading enemies that are aware of your presence, or, you know, taking them out while being unseen and surprising them. And Assault for just going guns blazing, no prisoners style gameplay. So, you know, the story, I have to say, I like the story. I like the idea of the 5th freedom, which is to protect all the other 4 freedoms, I believe, which were dictated by, I believe, FDR, or a previous president. You gotta forgive me. I know it's based off of the 4 freedoms. The idea that the 5th freedom is the freedom to protect the other 4 freedoms at whatever cost. I actually read that somewhere. That was really interesting. You know, that would be a concept in the game. I have to say, graphically, the game is pretty good. There are a few times, you know, when you're like looking through the tri-rotor or looking through the UAV drone that you might control occasionally, that it kind of felt like, wow, you know, the game, the ground looks like it was rendered with Crayola. I even made a joke about that. You know, it doesn't look like, the ground looks kind of weird. There's no foliage on it. You know, it's just kind of bland, like a texture. But all in all, you know, the soundtrack is really good. But one thing I have to say is the stealth mechanics in this game are absolutely fantastic. They're amazing. You know, I haven't really seen stealth mechanics done this well since, like, The Last of Us, for example. And, you know, as it stands, The Last of Us is currently my highest rated game ever on SpraynPray1000's verdict with a 96. So, Splinter Cell Blacklist is definitely a really good game. If you're a stealth guy, I definitely recommend you pick this game up because it's definitely probably one of the forefront games on the stealth genre right now. A lot of people are comparing it to the last greatest Splinter Cell game, Chaos Theory, which, you know, again, I'll have to play it and, you know, compare all the Splinter Cell games. I do own all of them. I just actually have to sit down and find time to play them. And, you know, then there's also multiplayer to the game. There's co-op to the game. So there's really a lot of good stuff to this game, you know what I mean? There's a lot of interesting stuff. Spies vs. Mercs returns, and apparently that was a very well-loved game mode from before in Splinter Cell. So that's definitely worth checking out. You know, the co-op gameplay, while some of the side missions in the main campaign, that's right, there's side missions. There's a lot of them, actually. You know, there's a meta game and there's other stuff. While some of the side missions can be played by yourself, some of them are mandatorily co-op. You know, there's bonuses if you play them with co-op, because actually in the story there's 2 different people you can, well, there's 2 agents that actually go out into the field. There's Sam Fisher, obviously, the main character, and then there's also Briggs, who you actually take control of at some points during the story. And, you know, he has different gameplay mechanics. I won't spoil them, but, you know, he plays differently than Sam Fisher does, and in actually a very surprising way. So, what would I give Splinter Cell Blacklist? You know, to wrap this review up really quickly, I would give Splinter Cell Blacklist a 91 out of 100. There's a lot of good stuff to be had in this game. You know, it's very fun. I enjoyed myself, and, you know, more than I thought I would. And it's definitely fast on the track to The Last of Us. It's really well done. You know, I enjoyed getting immersed in this game, and there's a lot of replayability to it. There's a lot of stuff to upgrade. Speaking of upgrades, the upgrades really help you out on missions, such as better radar, faster health regen, different class slots, ability to customize your gear in the field. It's just so many, you know, so many facets to the game. And the one thing that this game does kick The Last of Us's ass over is, well, besides the technological advantages, the fact that you can move bodies and you can hide bodies. That's something I did not understand why you could not do in The Last of Us. The fact that, you know, if bodies cannot be moved, then that they would alert someone else. So I'm glad that you can move bodies and, you know, get them out the way for someone else. To prevent someone else from seeing, you can hide them. You know, you can stuff them in corners. That being said, enemy patrol routes don't seem too vicious, but then again, you wouldn't want them to, like, search every single corner and have no secrets for you to hide. So there's definitely a lot of stuff you can do with this game, and I'm really impressed with it. And I'm definitely looking forward to see if, you know, they continue Splinter Cell or what they're going to do now. But it's kind of funny because Sam Fisher actually does look a lot like Isaac Clarke from Dead Space. And I was kind of, like, laughing at that, like, wow, you know, this is what he's doing when he's not fighting necromorphs, because he actually really does look a lot like the new Isaac Clarke. So, Yep, a 91 out of 100. Very well done. A very nice game. Perhaps one of the better experiences I've had this year. You know, this year, August especially, was really, really good, man, with all the releases that came out. Like, I was saying to myself that, unfortunately, March, with all these releases I was looking forward to, was kind of lackluster. You know, boom, here comes August. August has all these amazing launches. You know, it's just fantastic, in my opinion. It's just great. So now we're really getting into good gaming season, and the best is still yet to come. So definitely a great way to start the hardcore gaming season. So thanks a lot, Ubisoft. Thanks a lot, all the people who worked on this game. You know, thank you very much. You did a great job with this game. Very immersive, very good experience, especially for an outsider to the franchise like myself. This is my first real Splinter Cell game, having only dabbled in Essentials and maybe, I think, one other. I forget which one it was for the GameCube. You know, having dabbled in only a couple before, you know, what a great way, you know, what a great game. So definitely a lot of work put in. And I hope you guys enjoyed the playthrough and or the review, and I'll see you guys next time on another episode of SpraynPray1000's Verdict.